My daughter collapsed at home. The call came frantic, her neighbor's voice splintered through the line. By the time I reached the hospital, my pulse had calcified into something steady, lethal. A doctor intercepted me at the hallway, his hand pressed against my chest like I was the one unfit to enter. "Don't go in right now." I should have pushed through. I should have torn the door off its hinges. Instead, instinct told me to wait, to watch. I tilted my head toward the window of her room, a partial view. Harsh fluorescent light cutting across linoleum. My daughter's pale body tangled in tubes and wires. Machines hissed like quiet serpents, keeping her alive. But she wasn't the first thing I saw. He was. My son-in-law, leaning against the wall, smurfing. His mother beside him, laughter bubbling between them like this was all a performance, like her suffering had been scripted for their amusement. The sound didn't match the scene, and in that instant I knew. Something about this collapse was not natural. I pulled back into the hallway, lungs tight, head full of noise. But on the outside, I was still, always still. The doctor muttered words I barely heard. Electrolytes, seizures, dehydration, none of it stuck. Because what I'd just seen in that sterile room rewrote everything. Her husband wasn't worried, he was waiting. And his mother, the one who'd always whispered poison in her ear, wore triumph like perfume. I walked out of the hospital that night with two weights pressing me down. One was fear for my daughter, the other was the gnawing certainty that this wasn't an illness. It was a message. At home, I sat in the dark. Her childhood photos lined the mantel. I stared at each one like they were clues, like they held the answer to how she ended up with a man like him. A man who could smile while she lay inches from death. Sleep never came. Only a vow did. I would strip their mask, piece by piece. I began quietly. Hospital reports, medication logs. Too many mistakes in her prescriptions. Bottles missing pills, supplements switched. I followed him when he thought I was at work, watched him enter pharmacies on the other side of town, cash purchases slipping into plastic bags. His mother's house told me the rest. Kitchen cabinets filled with empty blister packs. Vitamins, sedatives, things meant to weaken, not heal. And then the insurance files. A policy signed 6 months ago, with my daughter's name across the top. Beneficiary, her husband. Witness signature, his mother. Every discovery cut deeper, but rage never escaped my face. I was patient, predatory. I visited my daughter every evening. She smiled weakly, unaware of the wolves who circled her bed. I sat at her side, nodding, speaking softly, all while the storm inside me grew sharper, more precise. They thought they were clever. They thought they had time. What they didn't know was that I was already dismantling them. The proof arrived in a brown envelope, unmarked. Toxicology results. My private request, rushed through old contacts who owed me favors. Traces of sedatives, repeated exposure. Not enough to kill instantly, but enough to wear her down, enough to push her body toward collapse. Poison. I carried the envelope to the hospital, slid it across the sterile sheets to her husband while my daughter slept. His mother sat in the corner, knitting, pretending innocence. He opened it, read. The color drained from his face. His hands trembled. I watched him, expression flat. No accusations, no shouting, just silence. Silence is heavier than any weapon. His mother's needles clattered to the floor. Her breathing hitched. They knew the game was finished. The next day, I made one call, to a detective who had once sat across from me in a war-zone cafe, sweating under mortar fire, promising he'd pay me back if he survived. He owed me. An investigation opened before dusk, quiet, surgical. Hospital staff questioned, prescriptions traced, financial ties uncovered. By the third night, my son-in-law and his mother sat under fluorescent lights of a different kind. Interrogation rooms don't forgive laughter. I didn't need to be there, but I was. When they brought him out in cuffs, he caught my eye. His mouth opened, words spilling, a plea, an excuse I'll never know. I didn't blink, didn't move. I simply turned away. My daughter recovered slowly. She asked where he was. I told her the truth, stripped of detail. He won't hurt you again. She cried, not for him, for the years she lost under his shadow. I didn't comfort her. Comfort wasn't mine to give. I gave her something else, freedom bought with silence, with patience, with truth revealed like a blade drawn at the perfect moment. At night, I sat outside her room, listening to the steady rhythm of her breathing. For the first time, it was not poisoned, not tampered with, just life. I lit a cigarette, even though I hadn't smoked in years. The taste was bitter, fitting. I thought of their laughter in that hospital room, how quickly it died when the evidence surfaced. Some betrayals end with screams, others end with handcuffs. Ours ended with silence. And silence, I learned, is the most devastating revenge of all.